Look at that one. Yeah, there we go. I'm a public sculptor. I make site-specific work responding to the space that piece is going to go into. I look at the history, I look at how the space is used, what people do in that space, and I'm very interested in creating experiential sculpture. So scale is hugely important. I want people to feel sort of awed and physically be able to touch and be impacted in an emotional way by the piece of work, because it's a public piece of sculpture. So it's really important that there is a relationship that started with the people who use the space. In March last year, I got approached by John Waldron, who put me forward for the project. And there were 4 spaces allocated for creative sculpture installations. And I was put up for one space, which was to be a figurative sculpture. So it had to be dynamic, it was about the senses, it was about connection. The brief was really about inspirational, life-affirming wellness, you know. So figuratively, I decided to go with my style of work that I've been doing in public sculpture, which uses drawing of a figure, so drawn lines, and then this figure departs from my old work by having panels on the body. So I created this concept, and then I did a maquette, which is a small model, for the initial presentation. So obviously for an 8-meter high sculpture, in a very, very windy, typhoon-prone city, there is a very strict engineering code. So we spent quite a substantial amount of time actually shoring up how to make this sculpture stand up, because it's on 2 legs, like a human being can stand up, but it's on a singular plane. So there's a lot of wind load on this side and not a lot of wind load on that side. So that took a long time. And then we went into material. My fabricator, who I worked with for a long time, Alex Polo, we collaborate on a lot of projects. We worked out aluminium would be the best material because it's light and it has the least corrosive properties, which is great. We got to a point where we had all the engineering done, we had the lighting done, we had all of the fabrication, how it was going to fit in the container to be shipped to Hong Kong, which is a crucial point, and how it was going to be made. So once we'd got all of that, I flew to Hong Kong, got sign off, saw the site, and got an idea of how it was going to look on site. And then this is all going to be trees around here, so most of those lamps will disappear.
Yeah.
We're building it in 2 parts. We've got the legs on one side and the torso on the other. And so initially, the frame goes up, so it's a very fluid lines, the lines that go from the top of the tip of the reaching hand. The pose is actually a standing man or woman standing like that, so it's like the end of a race, that celebratory moment of winning. So obviously the lines from the top of the tip of the finger all the way down the body to the legs, really important that you've got this really fluid, beautiful, creative sense of movement, like a drawing in steel.
Yep.
So arrived in Hong Kong and then came on site, stayed on site, and then got whisked away to see, and Alex and I to see the sculpture packed in the warehouse. And it was a little bit nerve-wracking because when we went into the warehouse, it looked really small. And so I was quite concerned that when we got on site, it was going to look too small. It feels quite small in here, doesn't it?
It does,
like,
I know.
You know, like
I know.
after it
It's
being
like,
in the other warehouse, it suddenly lost its size. It doesn't feel like a big sculpture anymore. But anyway, it arrived safely, and then came Monday. So coming onto site was quite interesting because it was big and still a bit of a building site. Which was good actually, because it meant that we could really install in the way. We didn't have to worry about surfaces or anything like that. So that was great. And then the sculpture arrived and we had a beautiful day. The sun was shining. And then it was just one of those really amazing days where the sculpture went up really well. I got to, for the first time, see the sculpture put together in all its glory, and I was so excited because when we hoisted it up, it was not small, it did not look small on site, it really, really sat beautifully, exactly as it could, and it had a real impact. And it's very rare that you make a public piece of art that delivers exactly as you intended. And this really, really delivered. And you could tell that there was a lot of excitement around it. Everybody was like taking photos and oohing and ahhing. And so it was just a moment of like, thank God. So, and just the skyline changing, the light against the sculpture, the areas of space that you could see it in relief, and all of these colors, the Hong Kong skyline, these pinks and these reds, and then this sculpture in the middle just totally held its own in all of this other visual feasting that was going on. Like, it really looked amazing on site, and it just gave us all an idea of how it was going to be when it was lit, and that it was going to really be impactful, and it really was impactful. So that was an incredibly proud moment for me. And so to see it installed successfully after this year was such a moment of triumph.